If you like turtles and fighting games, then this is a review for you. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I review 3 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fighting games.
Second Opinion Games.
Coming out in February of 1994, there was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters for the original Nintendo. Now keep in mind, the Super Nintendo was out quite a few years prior to this, so this one came out rather late in the NES's life cycle, meaning it's super expensive. However, if you've played fighting games for the original Nintendo, like Karate Champ or Urban Champion, well, then you'll know that they're pretty lackluster. So there's not a whole lot of competition for fighting games on the original Nintendo. And that's where Tournament Fighters steps in and takes the crown as best fighter for the system. The controls are rather simple, with one button to punch and one button to kick, but what really surprised me is how responsive they are also. The special moves aren't too hard to pull off. Well, if you're Shredder, you can just tap the B button for a quick punch, or maybe Leonardo rotate this controller back and press a kick button for a spin kick. It all feels really well and easy to pull off. About halfway through any match, a special ball will appear, and that is your projectile weapon. Now, characters like Shredder has their own projectiles that he can launch at any time, but he's really the only one that can pull this off. The other characters aren't really meant to be boss characters, so they're much weaker, and their moves don't take as much damage as the boss characters like Hothead, Casey Jones, and the Shredder himself. Even though in Versus mode there is a total of 7 characters, if you start up Story mode, well, you could only pick the Turtles, and they completely forgot their weapons. They left them at home, so they only have their hands and feet to fight each other before moving on to the special bosses. Occasionally there might be a minigame in between, but that's the whole game. Other than that, there's a tournament mode where you and a friend, or you against the computer, could set up a quasi-tournament where you could just win a championship trophy with no animation after you beat this segment. Overall, this game is really fun and definitely the best fighting game on the original Nintendo. Whether or not it's worth the high price tag, well, that's entirely up to you. Coming out in December of 1993, the Turtles Tournament Fighters also came out on the Super Nintendo, a few months earlier than the NES version. And roughly around the same time, the Genesis also got the exact same game, but with some different characters, and the graphics aren't as good and it's darker. So honestly, I think you just should stick with the Super Nintendo version. It has more playable characters, being 10, with 2 to be unlocked with a special passcode, pushing it up to 12. Each of them have their own stages, respectively. Now, those 2 additional characters, Rat King and Katara, I'm probably not saying her name right, well, they can't be played in story mode or tournament mode. Matter of fact, in story mode, you could only play as the Turtles themselves. And that's where a little added attention to detail really comes in. Michelangelo seems to be the obvious choice for younger players, and his moves are simpler to pull off because of it. Most of the time, when you're playing with him, you're just going to hit the one punch button. If you're a little bit more intelligent, you might play as Donatello, with a bit more strategy comes into play, and of course, if you're a leader, you're going to pick Leonardo. Raphael is a very good defensive player, so just keep that in mind. Overall, the Turtles themselves are great. The storyline is actually pretty darn good, with cool cutscenes in between. Of course, rescuing April O'Neil and Master Splinter. But in tournament mode, you are on some type of game show where you're just trying to win money, and it seems like they forgot who the end boss of the game should be. Instead of being Shredder, it's instead the Rat King. How dull, and it doesn't even look that much like him. Matter of fact, some of these other characters in the game, like Wingnut and Armageddon and War. I really don't like them very much at all, and just wish they had Casey Jones in here, or Bebop and Rocksteady. Instead, they're just background characters in some of the scenes. It's a minor annoyance, but it is one that does get to you if you really like this game. Versus mode is where the game really shines. If you happen to have a friend, then all 12 characters are at your disposal, assuming you did put in that code. Playing aggressively is very much rewarded as you have the super bar at the top. If it's full, press the fierce punch and the fierce kick buttons together and unleash a devastating attack. Just make sure it's lined up right when you use it, otherwise it can be totally worthless. And each of the characters are actually really well balanced this time around, and they each have a couple of special moves. The Turtles all have the backflip move, which allows them to not get hit, but the other characters have their own strengths and weaknesses as well. Some of the moves can be easily spammed, but if you're really good at the game, then you know how to counter them, making this one of the best fighting games. Matter of fact, it should be on anyone's top 5 fighting games for the Super Nintendo of all times. And finally, in February of 2009, Ubisoft celebrated the Turtles' 25th anniversary. I guess they're no longer teenagers anymore, by creating Turtles Smash-Up. Now, this is not related to any other media, movies, comic books, or anything, even though Peter Laird himself, the creator of the Turtles, helped with the storyline. And you could tell because it looks kind of like an old-fashioned comic book. And matter of fact, it comes with a comic book. I used to love this back in the days of the 2600, where you would get a bonus comic book to further along the story. However, now things have changed, where games don't even come with instruction manuals anymore. To see them go the extra mile really helps the game out. Now, it was released for the Wii and PlayStation 2, and it's a 4-player action brawler, and the title Smash-Up makes you want to think of Super Smash Bros., and for good reason. If it wasn't built on the exact same engine as the Smash Bros. Game, well, it was built on an engine heavily inspired by it. And the fact that it's made by Ubisoft means that it's quality, and chances are there's going to be some rabbits unlockables as well, because rabbits and turtles just go great together. So the controls are gonna be simplistic and a little floaty, with some items to collect. But what I really like about the game is the backgrounds and how they dynamically change as you play the game. Working your way through the sewers, you might get eaten by an alligator. Or if you're on board a boat, you'll hit an iceberg and then the boat will sink where you have to jump onto a whale to save yourself. Or the train level, which is always moving forward, and you could try to kill your opponent by getting them a ring out by unlocking the car trains. All of this plays terrific. Now, this game does have a health bar instead of just ring outs like Smash Brothers, but for me, that works to its advantage. There's still a block button and a throw, and light and strong attacks. Matter of fact, when I played on the Wii, I happened to use the GameCube controller the majority of the time, or at least the one designed to be used with the Wii. This time around, April and Splinter are no longer just kidnapping fodder. No, now they are total bad dudes, kicking the butt of the foot soldiers left and right. And when it comes to characters to select, it's actually pretty weak in this case. Of course, you could be all for the Turtles, and April O'Neil, and Splinter, and Casey Jones, and just a few others with a handful of other unlockables. I really think they could have expanded on this with Bebop and Rocksteady, and a lot more of the Turtles, with Baxter Stockman, and Krang himself. Even with the big old-fashioned suit, I think could have been amazing. But they stuck with this, and it is a totally great party beat-em-up brawler serviceable game. Now, one of the best parts about Turtles Smash-Up is that it's cheap, and pretty much any of your retro video game stores that isn't heavily picked through will probably have it. So, it's great. Just get it. Overall, all three of these games are good. The NES Turtles beat 'em up is the best beat 'em up on the system. The Super Nintendo had a lot of great beat 'em ups, and this one truly stands out. The graphics are terrific, and as far as one-on-one fighters goes, it is really, really good, and it is just a great party game for me to go back to again and again. Turtles Smash-Up, also a terrific party game, going up to 4 players at once now, and if your friends really love Smash and you don't, put this one in and see the good times roll. And all these games are definitely worth getting, even if some of them are really expensive. My personal favorite is Tournament Fighters for the Super Nintendo. And that's the one I'm probably going to continue playing until the day I die. But that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it. And if you want to support me, then all you have to do is watch the show and leave a comment because I'm a little lonely. I don't want any money or any prestige like all these other YouTubers. I just want to create content that some people will enjoy. So if you want to help me with that, please let me know what games you want me to cover in the future, and feel free to talk about all the mistakes I made in this video. And until later, I'll see you again, guys.